Hey you guys, I'm Steven.
I'm Giselle.
And we are also known as Lover's Passport. And welcome back to another episode of Unfiltered Adventures. Today, we have on a very special guest. She is a queen when it comes to travel. In 2023, she traveled to over 24 countries, did 45 flights, all with staying under $1,500. She's traveled to 37 countries by the age of 23. She's a points and miles guru. We're going to be diving into all of this in this week's episode of Unfiltered Adventures. So with that, we want to go ahead and welcome Jordan from the Mobile Homie.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're stoked that we've known Jordan. She came on one of our group cruises back in, was that last year?
I think it was August of 2023.
Yeah, and then we've kept in touch. She is an amazing, she's been a content creator for a while now.
And she just joined the Creator Passport.
Yeah, so thanks for being on the podcast, Jordan.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so glad we could have stayed connected for the past year. And yes, I am a proud member of TCP. It's amazing, and I've seen some great results with it.
Woohoo! I know you've been killing it with the game. You do content creation full time now, right? You have 35,000 followers on Instagram.
Yep, I do. Yeah, and I've been doing it full time since I had 15,000 followers. Maybe I wasn't prepared when that happened, but I don't know. I feel like I've always been pushed away from like the corporate life. And so I don't know, I kind of took a risk with it and it's paid off so far because now me and my boyfriend do the Mobile Homie full time with just 15
so rad.
So it's pretty cool.
That's amazing. I feel like that's really encouraging for like a lot of other people because I think that the like stereotype is, oh, you have to have like 500,000 followers to do it full time.
Yeah, like I didn't quit my job until we had 130,000, but we could have quit way sooner, like probably around like 50,000 followers. So yeah, it's really cool to see both you and your boyfriend kicking booty in the game.
Yeah, and when you did all that, like at 15,000 followers, how were you able to quit your full-time job and do it full-time? Was it all from like sponsored brand things? Were you doing like digital products? Were you doing
How did
affiliates?
You get started?
Yeah, how did you really dive into it?
Okay, so with content creation, so I started the Mobile Homie back in, I think, May of 2022. So it took about a little less than a year to get to 10,000 followers. But, that was kind of the beginning of Reels. So like, it was just really different then. Like I was focusing on a lot of like educational videos and, like pointing to the educational
classic.
Yeah, literally. And so like now looking back, it's like very cringe, the videos that were there. At the time, it was like acceptable. So it took a little bit less than a year to get to 10,000 followers. And then at 10,000 followers, I think at 2,000 followers, we got our first paid brand deal. And that was with Visit Mesa, which was a tourism board for where we lived at the time. And we were paid, I think, $1,200. And for us at the time, that was like...
That's big money.
It is, yeah. And like, I mean, the deliverables, were probably like crazy at the time. But like, still, that was like a lot of money to be made with something that, we had made like a little bit of affiliate income here and there, but like nothing crazy. And so then once we did that, we were like, oh, we can actually make some money with this. So we started like really pitching and, Chaz, she has her ebooks for pitching. So I like got those and we really started focusing on pitching. And I was still working a full-time job at this point. And so this was kind of like our side hustle, but we really just like pitched all we could. And, we were making decent money. Like for both of us having a full-time job and having a little bit of extra income, like it was decent. We probably were not making enough for me to quit my job, but what we really wanted is like, at that point, we hadn't left the country since like the year before. And so we were kind of like running out of content unless we wanted to focus on like Arizona travel, which we really didn't want to do. And we were still doing like, trips to Seattle, stuff like that. But so we really wanted to focus on international travel. And so that's when I quit my job because we had quite a bit saved up. We built like a bus before and we lived in a bus for a bit. We sold a bus and we had quite a bit saved up from that. And so with that money, we were like, JT still has his full-time job. I think I can afford to not have a job for a little bit and like still have a little bit of extra money coming in, but be able to get content from like actually traveling. So I think we went from May until after the cruise, we went to like Japan and South Korea. So I think from like May until October, we just traveled. And so we had our apartment still, but we didn't break our lease. So we were paying for an apartment and then like all of the travel. But so we were gone for that whole time, just like making content. And I don't think we really started to like make quality content until after the cruise. Because I sat down with Steven and he was like, no, this video is trash. No, this video is trash. But it's good. I needed that because it really pushed me to like make some educational content. And being with you guys on the cruise, like you're showing, oh, like these are the 5 types of shots to get. Like this is how you do this. And it really like clicked with me. And after the cruise, we grew, I think like 15,000 followers in like 3 months or something like that. Like we saw tremendous growth. And even now, I think for the past couple of months, we've maybe grown like, 6,000 followers, but still like the quality of the content that we're putting out is like crazy compared to what we were putting out before. And now we're really focusing on brand deals and just like monetizing. And so we're seeing crazy results with that. So
yeah, you just hit like a crazy figure, right?
Yeah, last month we hit our first 10K month. So
Let's go.
And that was the first month of like JT and I doing it full time too. So I think we'll be good.
We found like when we both started working on it full time, I think that was like October of 2022. So like we doubled our first year of income the second that we started working on it together. It's like crazy how having another person on your team like actually makes such a difference. Whether that's why we always tell people, if you're not doing it with your partner, like having an assistant or someone to help you is so crucial, not only for like mental burnout and like sharing responsibilities so you're not weighted down by all the things, but the exponential growth you can have when the second you have someone else like totally focusing on it. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
And how do you guys separate out the responsibilities now that you both do it full time?
Because you're the main gal on the page.
Yeah. Because I if you guys don't know the mobile homie, they kind of have a couples aspect. It's like a pillar of their content, but Jordan is definitely the star. That it's
JT
like her
is the
account.
sad character.
Yeah.
Sorry, JT.
So how do you guys manage that?
Okay. So this was like always our biggest conversation because even before JT did this full time, like he still had a lot of responsibilities because before like his job, he did like email marketing automation. So he's always done like that side of things. And he's always done like our landing pages and like that kind of stuff. But pretty much monthly, that's a conversation of like, we need to go through job roles because like if we don't have defined job roles, we find that nothing gets done.
Yeah.
Because you think the other person's going to do it. Or you both do the same thing and you're like, oops.
Yeah. Or it's like, oh, look, I need help with this. And like, it's easier to just say like, no, like that's not my job. Like just, kind of do your stuff. But like, no, that's really like a monthly conversation for us. But kind of how we have it right now is like, so it was just me doing the videos and then it was just JT doing the videos. But now it's like, I do the educational ones. He does the trending ones. We find it. Like,
interesting.
Because like a lot of the points of mile stuff, like he doesn't really know a lot about. And so like, he's always either he's going to be asking me questions. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like stop asking me questions. Or it's like, I can just do that part and then it avoids that issue. So I do the educational ones. He does the trending ones. And then like, I do all the back end stuff, like the blog, like most of like the scripting and stuff for like obviously all the educational stuff. And then he does all the pitching. So that was something that was like viral before, but then when he came on full time, he does all of the pitching now. And like, I just hop in to finalize things. And then like, I'm in charge of like separating out when things are due and like, making the brand calendar, like that kind of stuff. Because if he did it, it would never get done.
That's really interesting. I haven't heard anyone break it up by like content type. That's super smart though.
I mean, I'm just like very type A. Like I have to have a spreadsheet or like Notion for everything. And so, I mean, even like the content planning, like just for Instagram and like YouTube, like everything like that, I have like a whole spreadsheet for it. But with him, like, he's like, oh, what's the video for today? I'm like, look at the spreadsheet.
Look at the spreadsheet. I'm going to make t-shirts with that.
A place where like it's somewhere,
Yeah. No, that's funny. Oh my gosh. I feel like everyone in this industry that's like a very successful content creator is mostly type A.
It's true. It's
You
true.
have to be.
Like,
I mean, there's so many. I feel like at a normal job, right? You have someone that tells you this is when your deadline is due. This is when this is happening. I need you to do this. It's like very specific. But with as a content creator, like you could do anything any day of the week at any time. There's no like due dates. It's really just all on you. So if you're not organized and understand what you're doing every day in order to grow your business, you're just not going to make it, or you'll focus on the wrong things when you really should be focusing on these other pieces.
Yeah.
So
But I feel like it's not only just in the content creation world, it's also in the travel world.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that goes into travel planning, which Steven doesn't know because he doesn't plan any of our travel. But as someone who not only plans all the travel, but also does all the points and miles stuff, like I understand how much work that takes. So when Steven was reading off those facts earlier, you did 45 flights for less than $1,500. That is insane to me. I cannot conceptualize getting that many good deals. I mean, granted, we don't fly Spirit or like budget airlines, but that's wild.
Yeah, no, the Spirit makes a difference because like it kind of sucks, but it's also like it saves so much money. And like for us, I think, you know, in the future, it won't be such a thing. I mean, even now, like it's really not, but like last year specifically, it was like we had to stretch as far as we could. And so like even for Christmas, like we did a family trip to Florida. I think we got like 6 flights for like under $100 each round trip.
oh
to
my
Florida.
gosh.
But we had to fly Spirit, and my whole family was like, "No, I don't want to fly Spirit." I'm like, "It's gonna be worth it, guys." Like,
You'll save a lot of money.
and like with the budget airlines, you can go to the airport and buy the flights for like 50% off. And so
I saw your reel on that. I was shook.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. So like, and now they let you cancel, like they have no cancellation fees and stuff.
That's a game changer too.
Yeah, it is. So like, I mean, that was the biggest problem with Spirit before was like, oh, like you're buying it and you're never getting a refund.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or like, I think the biggest issue a lot of people have with the budget airlines is the baggage fees and how strict they are with like putting your like Steven's personal item would absolutely not fly on Spirit. They would fine the crap out of you for that. Like he has a Peter McKinnon nomadic bag filled to the brim with
This
camera
thing's
gear.
gotta
It's
be
probably
like 60 pounds every single time we fly with it. And I'm like, this is a personal item.
it's probably heavier than his checked bag most of the time, to be
Yeah.
honest. But yeah, he would not be able to do budget airlines, which is another reason why I typically don't go that route. I used to do like the whole Ryanair route when I was studying abroad in Europe. And honestly, their TikTok still makes me want to fly Ryanair. Like they're just so savage on there.
No, it's so good. And I understand with your backpack though, because like I always make JT carry the bigger one because like it looks smaller on him, and then like mine can always fit in the thing. But no, you're right. I think that's a huge turnoff for people. But like I don't know. I'm trying to get out of this, but like I'm really a minimalist packer. Like even for the entire summer last year, like I had one backpack.
It's so impressive though. I wish I could do that. I started doing like a capsule wardrobe building, I guess. So, but all of the trips we're doing like next are not related to that wardrobe at all because it's more of like a city wardrobe because we did so many European cities last year, especially with the cruise. And this year it's like we're about to go to Norway and it's a complete like adventure trip. And I kind of have like an adventure wardrobe, but I feel like with that kind of stuff, like hiking boots are so big and like poles and camping gear. Traveling with camping gear is you need to check a bag. So.
Yeah. But is that how you were able to travel or fly to so many different places for $1,500? You were just focusing on the budget airlines, or like how do you find those kind of deals?
Well, okay, it really depends because like yes, we flew a lot of budget airlines, but I mean a lot of why we didn't pay that much was because we didn't have any baggage fees. So I think maybe we had baggage fees. I paid for bags. No, I think it was free because it was still a carry-on. I think maybe I paid for bags like once or twice. And so like, that's why the number is so low. Cause I do include that in it. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. But I think like, I'd say probably 50% of them were budget airlines, but that was just because like, we were in Europe for most of the summer. And so we flew like a couple of Ryanair flights, but mostly we were in like the Balkans. So it was like their airlines. And so maybe they're budget, maybe they're not.
They're like commuter flights, like local flights.
It's like as budget as like Ryanair, but it wasn't like, you know, regular.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, especially if you were in Europe just hopping around. Whenever I think of flights, I'm always like, oh, we're flying from LAX all the way across the world to go to Italy or something like that.
Versus like Europe to Europe
Yeah,
flights.
very true.
Yeah, very different. And honestly, okay, so you're currently 24, 23, 25. How old are you?
I'm 23. I turned 24 in like a couple of days, actually.
Ooh.
Oh, happy early birthday. Well, honestly, it is so interesting to me because I get asked a lot, like, why I started traveling when I was really young. Like, my first solo trip abroad was when I was 15. I studied abroad again when I was 18. And I don't find too many people, like, at a young age knowing exactly, like, I want to travel. I want to do this. So do you kind of want to like speak on your background of like what got you into traveling in the first place? Like what motivates you to travel so much? Because people ask me that all the time and I'm like, is it just not a common practice? Like I grew up with a travel agent mother. And so we just grew up traveling. And so it was just like intrinsically in my blood. I just always wanted to be exploring new places, but there's not a lot of young people that really make it a priority and save up. Like I got a job when I was 13 to save up for 2 years so I could do this study abroad when I was 15. In retrospect, like most 13-year-olds probably would not have that like forethought, you know? So it's wild to see what you've done at like such a young age.
Thank you. I mean, I can't even imagine if I had a travel agent mother, I would have taken advantage of that.
Oh yeah, I do.
Well, okay. So what really got me started was, I guess when I was 10, I went abroad for my first time. So I was in like an AG program in like elementary school. Like this was, I think I was in maybe fifth grade. And they kind of came out with this thing that was like, oh, it was really cheap too at the time. I mean, like now looking back, it was cheap, but I guess at the time it wasn't. But they were like, oh, for, I think it was maybe like 14 or $1,500. You would get to go to Austria, Germany, Switzerland. Like your parent can come with you. And I think it was maybe like a 2-week trip or something like that. But at the time I was like, oh my gosh, I really want to do that. And my parents had traveled a lot. Like my dad, like he used to go to Singapore a lot for work. And like my mom used to travel a bunch too. But I don't know, when they said that, I was like, I want to do this. This is something like I really need to do. And so when I was in fifth grade, I was like, I went home. I said to my mom, like, I want to do this. How can I do this? And she's like, we'll go make something and sell it to the neighbors. And so my mom sat down with me and made like 100 scrapbooks with me, like out of these paper bags, like, 2010, like that was the thing at the time. So I made a ton of these with her. And then I literally went door to door in my entire neighborhood. And I sold one to every person that answered their door because I really wanted to go on this trip. And so after, I think like it literally took me 2 weeks. Like I would get home from school and I would just like go out and sell these stupid books.
That gives me like Girl Scout cookie selling PTSD.
I was a Girl Scouts too. So like, the neighbors knew me. I was coming around.
The neighborhood saleswoman.
Yeah. No, like that was, and in elementary school, there was like so many fundraisers. Like we had like booster thons or whatever they were called. I was going around the neighborhood a lot for that kind of stuff. So I sold all these scrapbooks. I made enough money, and then I went on the trip. And on our trip, that was like when the volcano erupted in Iceland, and we got stuck there for like an extra 2 weeks. So we ended up spending
2 weeks.
Gosh.
Yeah. It was crazy. We ended up being there for like, I think we were there for over 3 weeks, like the total.
Wow. As a fifth grader?
Yeah, because no flights would go out of wherever we were flying from. And so we were kind of just like stuck in Germany, which was really fun. And I still remember this trip like super vividly too, which is kind of crazy. I don't know, like for your first trip abroad, like, do you remember that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I feel like honestly, I remember it a lot because I took a lot of photos. And I think that's like a whole other side convo of like people taking photos for the gram. But honestly, it helps my memory so much of like, oh yeah, that happened.
No, 100%. And I think that's like my favorite part of content creation is getting to look back on it. Cause I'm the same way. Like I try and journal, but like I can't see pictures in my head. And so literally like thinking back on something, I'm like, I have no idea. Like I have to see a photo. And so I don't know. I love content creation for that. But anyway, sorry. So I went on this trip and I like totally fell in love with it. And I literally spent the next like, I don't know, 7 years when I got back. I got a job when I was like 14 because I was like, I need to go abroad again. Like same exact thing as you. I was like, this is something I just really wanted to do. And literally from a young age, I just knew I wanted to travel. And even that was a conversation when I graduated high school. I was like, I just want to travel. And my parents were like, no, you need to go to college. And so I went to college to teach English as a second language because my original plan was to like, teach English as a second language in another country. But then, I studied abroad to do the same thing. I studied in Luxembourg. And then COVID came. I had to go home. And then after that, I was like, ooh, I don't know how I'm going to do this because
COVID was probably a wake-up call, huh?
yeah, it definitely was. And so once I came back, my boyfriend and I started a podcast. We started building out a bus, like just anything to like be able to travel in the US because, nobody knew when we could travel abroad again. And so we really just did everything we could to travel domestically. And then once, I think the end of 2021, we got a flight deal where it was $175 to Madrid. And I was like, we're booking this.
We're going.
I don't know if I could do that. Like, he just was kind of freaking out. I'm like, listen, like this, because this was his first time abroad was he left the day, like from the US to Luxembourg, the day that the borders were shut down for COVID. That was his first and only time abroad. And so he got to Luxembourg and we like walked around for 2 days and then we were like locked up. So
wait, you were like in Luxembourg for the COVID lockdowns? You didn't come home?
Oh yeah, I literally had to flee the country. my school was like, they basically sent me an email. Well, they sent a series of emails. At first it was like, oh, you're fine to stay. The second one was, oh, you need to sign a waiver. Like, we're not responsible for you. And then the last one was, if you don't get home in the next 48 hours, we're unenrolling you from all of your courses.
What?
Yeah. And so basically this was like, I had waited it out. I was like, I'm staying here. Like, I don't want to go back because like, it felt very handled there. And from everything like everybody else here was saying, I was like, it seems scary over there. So I just wanted to stay there. I waited it out and then I couldn't wait it out anymore. And then we tried to drive into Germany because that's where JT's flight was out of. And it wouldn't let us across the border. And so then we had to go back and we ended up booking a flight from Luxembourg to Paris. And I remember getting to the airport and every flight on the board was canceled except this one. And I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know if we're going to actually even get out of here. And so it was like a little puddle jumper flight. Like it literally had propellers on it. And our suitcase didn't fit in there. They wouldn't put it underneath the plane. They strapped it into a seat. They were it's
wow.
And we flew to Paris and then everything was shut down there. And we slept in the airport and we were there for like 24 hours and nothing was open. Like you couldn't even get water. Like it was crazy.
That's such a trip.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we flew to LAX and LAX was dead. Like it was the weirdest experience. Cause I mean, you know how lively LA is.
Every week we're there. Yep.
And it was so dead. Like there was nobody. It was really weird. And we had it was just really weird. And then
I feel like it sounds like the apocalypse. Like when we're talking about COVID in like 20 years, what are we gonna remember?
No, I mean, that was like the most extreme I ever remembered it. Cause like, I don't know, like it was just different. After that, it was like, it kind of just became normal. But that was the first time where people like really, it was taken very seriously, but it was just dead. Like it was weird seeing these places that were so busy all the time, just
empty. Yeah, we were abroad in Mexico like the week before the borders finally shut. Yeah, we were in Mexico. My brother was in London. My other brother was in Cambodia, and my mom was off traveling somewhere too. So none of my family was actually at home the week before. And luckily, all of us got back on time. But my brother almost got stuck in like Taiwan or something because he got like the last flight like you, like on the way back before the border shut down. He had to switch flights or something like 5 times. But luckily, my mom was booking his flights because she knows what she's doing. But yeah, that's such a crazy time.
Yeah, that's insane. And you said that after that, you lived in a bus for 8 months. Like, what was that period of your life? How did you
convert it yourself, or did you
I'm
buy
thinking
it
of like a
converted?
school bus. Like explain to this period.
Yeah, so we bought a shuttle bus from an old folks home. So we really
From
wanted
an old folks home.
Yeah, we did. We really wanted to live in a van. You know, this was like the period where van life was becoming popular. We'd gone on a road trip and we met like this person who lived in a van, and we were like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. Like, I really want to live in a van.
I wonder if we've had a few people come up to us like in that period of time, 2020 to 2022. And they were like, oh, I built out the back of my car when I saw your build, and like we did this. And I didn't realize like how many people actually did that.
It was like I feel like that was a big reason why we grew so quick in the beginning, because it was so hip and trendy, you know?
No, for sure. And I mean, I still see people today with their Forerunners built out. Like, that's a very popular thing. But yeah, so we bought a shuttle bus from an old folks home, and it had like 70,000 miles. It was a 2001. Like, it was in good shape. And, you know, being in Flagstaff, like there was no rust, anything like that. So we brought it home. And at the time we were living in an apartment there. So we just like parked it in front of our apartment, and we just started gutting this thing. And we like ripped out all the seats. We ripped out like way more than we should have. Like, we probably should have left some stuff in there, but no, we just like ripped everything out. And then we had no idea what we were doing. And we were just like, yeah, we're gonna build this thing. And so we like put down this floor, and my dad's like a woodworker. So I'm calling him like, hey, like, what do I need to do like to do this? And he's like, oh, get this. And so we did it. And then we graduated like a couple weeks later, and we drove the bus back to Phoenix, and I drove to my dad's house, and I was like, like my mom and dad. So my mom's like kind of handy, but my dad is like, he's a woodworker. Like, he really knows what he's doing. But he looked at it and he was like, no, we're redoing this. Like, go back to Home Depot.
Oh my gosh.
So he helped us do the floor, and then like I have enough skill where I could build like the bed and like the chairs and stuff like that. And then my dad helped us with the shower. But besides that, like I did all the electrical. We had like complete solar on it. JT did all of the plumbing, and so it like this thing.
Where did you learn how to do that? YouTube?
You have YouTube University. You can learn anything on
For
there.
real though, that's how we got started. But electrical and plumbing, I just think of like Steven when we moved into our house, like the lights in here that we have in our studio. He's like, I'm like holding up this lantern. He's like on the phone with our buddy. He's like, I watched this YouTube video. This wire's supposed to go to this wire, right? Like,
I love it. But yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely YouTube. But like, I don't know. I've always been into like, I like electrical stuff. So it worked out. I mean, this thing was an off-grid beast. Like, it could run off-grid for like, like literally you just need to fill the water tanks and you were fine, because it had like an electrical stove, it had like an electric water heater, like you could charge pretty much anything off of it, and it had a fridge. Like, you could really just live off grid with this thing. The only thing you need.
How much did it cost? How much did you guys put into it when you were like building it out?
Yeah, so we bought it for $8,000, and then we put $5,000 into the bills.
oh, that's not bad.
No, not at all. And then we turned around and we sold it for a pretty penny. So definitely helped us save. But
Nice.
yeah, I mean, at the time it didn't feel like that big of an investment, because I mean, we had both been working like, I've had a job since I was like 14. Like,
You seem like financially responsible.
I was gonna
adults.
say, yeah, you guys are killing it. And where did you end up taking that? You said you lived out of it for 8 months. Did you just road trip the whole U.S. or what?
no, we didn't road trip the whole US. We really did like the Southwest was kind of where we focused on, because we drove up. The furthest we drove north was like, where did we drive? I think we drove to like northern Utah, and no, we drove to Colorado. We drove like into Colorado, and yeah, we drove like up California into Nevada, and then like Utah, Colorado.
There's so much to do in like the western states.
Yeah.
It's
And that was
insane.
the thing, is we were like, oh, we're gonna drive up to Jackson, we're gonna go to Glacier. Like, we thought it was gonna be this whole thing, and then it was like, oh, it's November. Oh,
No.
Jackson just 3 feet of snow. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, we can do that. So yeah,
Winter van life is not it. Let me
Out
tell
of
you.
out of all the states that you've visited so far, has there been like a favorite, or what is your two's favorite type of landscape? Do you like the hot springs or like the cities or the mountains or the desert? Obviously, you guys are from Arizona, so I'm assuming it's the desert, but what do you think?
All right. So we were just talking about this yesterday. So for this summer, this is kind of an accidental goal, but I think we're going to hit all 50 states this summer just because we're like very close. Like I think we need like 23 states to hit all 50 states.
Nice.
You're like right there with us. I think we're at like 23 states or 22 states. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys are you going to do that this summer
Well,
too?
we've been saying that we were like early 2024. We're like, this is the year we're going to hit all 50 states. And then as it happens, like in our business, gigs pop up like less than 2 weeks to a month in advance, and you're like, oh, there goes that plan, like cancel these and we'll go put that in. It's just really hard for us to justify like for example, I had this whole trip planned to North Carolina, Tennessee. We were going to do like the Smoky Mountains, go back to South Carolina and do the stuff that we didn't see when we were there earlier this year. But then we get like an insane like five figure deal for like 4 days of work. It's hard to justify spending a ton of money when you could go and do the same thing at a different location and get paid for it.
And it's difficult. I don't know. We've been struggling with this bit where we've been to all of the, I feel bad saying this, but all the like super epic spots in the States.
That's not true.
And we've been to quite a few. We
haven't even been to Glacier.
And then when we think about like all of the other stuff out there, like, do I want to do a road trip to somewhere in the US that's like just to do it and check it off the bucket list,
like,
or
I'm just gonna
fly to Norway and go
Yeah.
and hike a bunch of places in Norway, you know? So I feel like that's what we've been struggling with at a certain extent. I think that we'll get close to hitting all 50 by the end of the year, but I don't think that we'll hit all of them total.
Because it's hard to justify, like he was saying, like we have this giant bucket list of like Patagonia and Antarctica and Madeira, Portugal, and all these places, but the flights there are the same price as going to North Dakota. You know, like it's just priorities, you know?
No, I you're totally right. And, you know, we always have this struggle too, but that's kind of why we decided to drive instead of just like, you know, do smaller trips, because I'm like, well, you know, we're going to like we kind of picked out on a map, like where our main places are to go. And then we kind of just like filled in the in-between, and like, they're not to just check it off, but it's like, oh, I do want to see this. Yeah. I'm like, I do want to see this, but like, I'm not going to spend like a week in the state. Like, I mean, it's just, I'm a big fan of like sample travel, where I really enjoy staying in places for like 2 days. And then if I really like it, I'll come back.
We're kind of the same way, like the Costco samples. That's what I think of. That's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. Cause like, I mean, even like, I don't know. I just really think that it's good to go to some places, because really, like, I've been to places where like we've spent, okay, for instance, when we were in South Korea, we really wanted to do, we booked a trip to Japan. That was one of the flights last year. We spent, I think it was like $470 round trip per person. So like,
that's a really good deal for Japan.
It was a crazy deal. And so we booked that, and we were like, oh, you know, well, while we're out there, let's go somewhere else. So we decided to go to South Korea. Well, we had already booked like about a week in South Korea, and we went to Seoul, and I wish we didn't spend a week in Seoul. Like, I really, like, I enjoyed the trip, but like it rained the whole time. Like, really, it just, I don't know. It wasn't my vibe. Like, some people really like it, but I'm like, I would have rather spent that week in Japan or gone to like some other cities in Korea. And so that's where I always have a problem with that, because I'd rather just have gone for like 2 days and then been like, oh, I really want to go back, instead of like spending a whole week there and being like, okay, I don't really want to be here. And like, that makes me feel guilty when I travel too, because I'm like, so many people would love to travel here, but like, I'm not liking it. Like, I don't know. It's just like this whole interpersonal debacle, you know?
I mean, we all, I think, have to acknowledge how privileged we are to be able to travel and do what we do and get paid for it. Like, it's a dream job. But at the same time, like, you're entitled to your opinions, you know? There's definitely some places I wouldn't ever go back, / like, I think we've done it justice, where I don't think prioritizing the time there would be beneficial when we could be spending our time elsewhere.
Yeah. Totally.
But I mean, then there's like places this year, we were talking about it the other day, seems to be the year of doubles. Like, we never go back to the same place in the same year, but in the past year, we've gone to Mallorca twice. We're about to go to London twice. We're going to the exact same place in Norway twice. We're going to Phoenix twice. We're doing like everything twice. I don't know how it happened that way, but all of the places that we're going are like cool locations that we enjoy.
That's what's good about it is you went the first time, you enjoyed it enough to go back. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And like, I get that too, because then you're like, oh, I could be going somewhere else. But it's like, no, if you enjoyed it, just go back and have a good time.
Yeah, like Mallorca and Norway are both insane place. And London, we always love London.
Do you have like a Mount Rushmore of like, these are the 4 or 5 countries that I would go back to over and over that are your favorites?
Wait, I'm going to guess one of them is Turkey, and I'm going to guess Spain.
Ooh, Spain's an interesting one. Okay, I do like Spain, but I would not have really put that on my list. But oh my gosh, I also didn't tell you. So we all went to Mallorca last year on the cruise. It was like the most 10 out of 10 day. Like, how great was that water?
We were like in this beautiful beach with this turquoise clear water, drinking sangria. It was the best day trip. I loved that.
Yeah.
It was Cala Mondrago, I think, that we went to.
Yeah, it was amazing. But we did the cruise this year, like JT and I. And, we did a little early. It was April. That was the second time I've been to Europe in April, too. And, like, I need to just wait another month. Like, it's too cold.
The water was freezing. We went in April, too, and it was so cold. And there were all these jellyfish. And we were like, this isn't the vibe.
So we got to Mallorca. We were supposed to get there at, like, 10 or something in the morning. But it was, like, a 9 p.m. day back on the boat. So I was like, you know what? This is going to be enough time to, like, go drive to this beach. Like, I really want to show JT. Like, this was just so awesome. So we don't even get into like noon. And then we get off the boat. I forgot the passports to rent the car. So I had to go back to the boat.
Aww.
And then we go back, and then we can't even make it to the airport because of like something shut down. And so we ended up like not being able to rent the car. And then we ended up just spending the day in like the Palma area, which was still nice. It was
Palma's nice.
But I was just like, it was so hard because that's also my problem with revisiting places is it can never live up to the first time. Ever. No matter how hard you try. And so I'm always just like, oh, do I want to like disappoint myself and try this again? Or do I want to like...
Well, I mean, I think it depends on the never living it. There's some places that we've been where I definitely like it more the second time because of the people I'm with or like the weather was better. Like, I think those are the exceptions. But I do get the like fear of tainting a really good thing, and so it just really depends, I feel like, on the type of trip. That's why we try and do it. If we're going to repeat a place, it's got to be with either different people, different season or like month, or a different style of trip. And I think that way it like, spaces it out. Because otherwise, I don't feel the need to go revisit places over and over and over again if we're going to do the exact same things.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's something to be said about, revisiting or new places, but you just got to do what feels right in the moment. Like it'll always be good. It'll always be good.
What's currently on your radar, like travel planning wise?
So, all right, I'm a really bad travel planner sometimes for this being my job. Like, I mean, even like we're seriously, well, okay, I'll say this, like, I've been trying to challenge JT to plan some things because like, I'm just so bad right now. Like I just have so many other things on my plate where I'm like, but even tonight, I have no idea where we're going to sleep tonight. We're just going to like drive and I'm going to look something up on the way.
Find some BLM on the way.
Like, that's just how it is sometimes. But on like our radar, this year's a little different because, we're doing like road trips. And then I think we'll be doing probably our like one international trip this year. I think we're going to be doing Christmas markets.
Oh, that'll be so fun. I'm so jealous.
Excited, but I really want to do some like off the beaten path ones. Like I really want to go to Estonia and I really want to go to Lithuania. Those are like the 2 places I really want to go. And then like, I think we're going to have to do like a classic one or something, which will probably be maybe Salzburg or something.
Germany, Austria. Yeah.
Austria. Okay, wait. So I didn't answer your question before. Sorry. My favorite countries of like repeat, like I would go back over and over. Scotland. Scotland's like number 1 for me. I love Scotland.
Really?
Sweet.
Yeah. It's like, I don't know. I have like this thing. I just love Scotland. Like I went the first time to Scotland because I don't know if you've ever like read or watched Outlander. I love Outlander like a lot.
That tracks.
Yeah. So I went there because of that. And I just like fell in love. Like,
are you a big castle girly?
Oh my God. I like castles, but it's more of like, the huge, just like rolling landscapes.
And
Like
like the dramatic cliffs.
yes, there's something about that. And like, Ireland's pretty too, but like Scotland, oh my
We
gosh.
haven't done Scotland at all, so that's interesting. Yeah.
I would love to visit. I've been to the Highlands a few times, but I want to road trip it. Like, there's just so much that you can't see unless you like physically drive yourself. I just can't get myself to drive on the left side of the road, so I gotta get JT in on that.
I was gonna say we'll plan a trip out there, and Steven can drive. We put him in a ton of crazy driving
man.
situations.
I get pushed to the limit.
Yeah, you too, because you even with the manual car in Spain, it's how it is sometimes. But yeah, no. So Scotland definitely number one for me. Love Japan. I would go back to Japan over and over again. I don't know if you guys felt that way.
We
Totally.
did. We said it's definitely like a top 5 country at the time. I think it still is a top 5 country.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Turkey also. I love Turkey. We spent like 3 weeks in Turkey, and like the people were fantastic. Like we had such a good time with the locals, and like everyone was just so nice. And I mean, the Turkish tea, love Turkish tea. The food, so good. Everything was so cheap, and like I just loved it.
The hospitality in that region is supposedly like amazing. You're not the first one to rave about it to us. Our friends Corey and Sammy, who we had on the podcast earlier this season, were saying that's like their new favorite place.
Yeah, they loved it.
They did like Cappadocia and I think Istanbul. But yeah, we haven't done that area. I remember my mom had a trip planned for all of us to go, and then it got canceled when we were younger for like some political reason, I think. But I think we'll be back out that way probably next year.
Yeah, you should. I mean, and also like the coast of Turkey, like I would not leave that out. Like Izmir, beautiful. Antalya, beautiful. Obviously Cappadocia is cool too. But like if you go in the summer, there is like not much to do during the day because it's really hot. Like
oh really?
Yeah, which I didn't know until we went. I mean, like I said, not the best travel.
Off season, good to know.
So fun. So those would be like the top 3, you think?
Yeah, I think those are the top 3 for me. I do like Spain though. I mean,
Spain's it's a grower. Like,
oh gosh.
Everywhere you go is so different. Because like the first time we had gone, we went to Madrid, and I really liked Madrid. The second time I went, I mean, I've been to, well, obviously the place we went on the cruise, but besides that, like I've specifically made a trip to like Madrid, Barcelona, and then one city that's in the south. I can't remember the name of it. Valencia. I went to Valencia. And they're like, it was all very nice. And I think that it's like everywhere I've gone in Spain has been very clean, and like the food is always good. But I think that my problem with Western Europe is the prices. Like I really can't justify them sometimes when like literally all summer in the Balkans, we were eating for like $3 a person for like a sit down meal. Like
that's crazy.
It's just different. Yeah.
Honestly, we found Italy wasn't that bad in terms of pricing.
Really not. And JT and I were just talking about this too, because we went back to Rome and we were there for like 4 days. And so like the last day, we just spent the entire day eating. We were like, we're making our own food tour. We ate everything we possibly could. Like we ate so much food. We didn't even spend €50 or €50 between the two of us.
Wow.
Yeah. And Prosecco's cheap too.
It is. I mean, even like I ate a lot of gelato and a lot of like granita and cannolis. Like that was always good. But like, I don't know. I could just eat Italian food forever and ever. My family's very Italian. Like everybody lives in Long Island, and that's just my family is loud and eats a lot of good food. So I love Italy a lot too. That's probably a top one for me just because of the food.
So if you were to like, obviously you've traveled over, if you were talking to like another 18-year-old getting ready to go to college and is like, I want to be able to do exactly what you were doing, what would be like your biggest piece of advice to start traveling when they were younger?
Ooh, that's really good. I would say like, don't be afraid to do stuff alone. I solo traveled a lot, like at the beginning, just because I didn't have anybody to travel with. But I think that doing things alone is very underrated. Like if people don't want to go with you, just go, or like find somebody. Like you'd be surprised if you just like put on your social media, like who wants to go on a trip. I guarantee somebody would respond to that and would do something with you. Like you're always going to find someone spontaneous. And if you can't, do it with yourself. Like seriously.
That's good advice. I went abroad alone when I studied abroad in the Netherlands and when I did in London, but when I did that, I forced myself to meet new people and kind of like forced myself to be extroverted. Like I didn't know my roommate in advance and we ended up becoming really good friends. I did some solo traveling on the weekends when I was out there, but then her and my other friend Jackie, who I ended up just going to her wedding actually this year, which is cool. Like we made connections while we were traveling abroad when we were 18. Now everyone's getting married. It's wild. But like just putting yourself in that situation where you're kind of forced to go out of your comfort zone. Like I consider myself an extroverted introvert where like I'm so comfortable doing things alone where it's hard for me to intentionally really put myself out there and make new friends unless it's just a scenario where there's a group meetup or something. That's I'm fine in those situations, but I'm not one to go out of my way to like go approach a stranger and start talking with them like Steven can. But no, that's I like that advice because I think it was really cool for me to do that alone, and you get a lot of independence when you're younger, and then once you like find a really good travel buddy, then it just makes it like more fun to share the experience. But I think doing it on your own teaches you so much about yourself. I learned that I get hangry. I learned that like I'm very go with the flow, and I learned like my travel style, you know, like I want to be out doing things all day. It drives me bonkers when we end up traveling with someone that just wants to sit at the hotel all day. Like I learned that myself from going out there and doing it. And then now I know like who I can travel with. So
that's a really good point. I can't travel with just anybody either. And I think my boyfriend and we're very established with that. I don't know. The hangry thing's funny. Like, okay, so JT and I have that same dynamic. We call it getting crabby. And if we sense the other person's getting crabby, we're like, go put on your crabby hat. And like, we just tell them that. We tell each other that. And then it like, you know, lets you evaluate and like not be as hangry. But like, that's really a big thing.
Good communication.
That's me too. I get really hangry too.
Well, we saw something on TikTok the other day and it was, I forget what exactly it was, but somebody was like, oh, the other girl's getting really hangry right now. Like just making it be a third party naming it or something.
And then when they get food, we're like, I'm happy the other girl's back now. It was very funny.
I was like, yeah, I'm a walking Snicker bars commercial and we're traveling and I don't have food.
Yeah. Well, if people want to go and follow you and see what you're doing what are you doing next? You're just road tripping around the US? Like what can people expect to see from you?
Yeah, so we are road tripping around the US, but we do have lots of international content too. We're still posting some. I posted one yesterday too. So
I feel like you're the queen of global entry and TSA pre-check and all that international stuff, you know, so.
I gotta keep that up. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I like to, all of the little tips and tricks I can give with that kind of stuff. I really try. So yeah, I'll definitely be posting, all of the tips and tricks for international travel. But yeah, I'll do a lot of domestic stuff right now, but a lot of stuff just to teach you how to save money, because that's really my biggest thing. Is just to be able to stretch your budget as far as you can, even if you don't want to do like super budget or super luxury. Like, I'm kind of a mid-range traveler now, so anything to get the best bang for your buck, I'm all about. So I will be sharing that.
So rad. And then if you had one more piece of advice for anyone that, like, obviously you said you're doing this full time with you and your boyfriend and you're at 35,000 followers, like if they were looking to start growing their account, or like any one piece of advice, if you were just starting Instagram back then to now being able to support both you guys traveling, what would you give them advice to do?
Okay, so actually, Steven, I can thank you for this advice, because you're the one that said it's like the 80-20 thing. That was really the best advice I ever got, because we found ourselves just being spread so thin because we were trying to monetize on so many different parts. And when you guys talked about just like sticking with one, and then like once it's big enough, you can outsource it and then like monetize the second, like that really changed the game for us, because we were spread so thin just trying to, do the blog and then actually post content. And I mean, we post every day. So, I mean, you guys do too, but like now it's not really a thing to us, but for some people, like that's a lot of work. And so when you're trying to juggle all of these things, like it's really hard. And so just like find one like stream of income that you can actually capitalize on and that you find yourself spending a lot of time on. Because for us, that was always brand deals. Like we spent like a little bit of time on it, but like we were making a lot more doing that, not spending so much time on it. And then like everything else, we weren't really making money on, and we were spending even more time on that than brand deals. So now we're really focusing on like brand deals, sponsored contents, and affiliates, all that kind of stuff. And once we can like really, really monetize this, then we're going to go into some other streams of income. So I think sticking to what is it? It's like the
80-20 principle, Pareto principle.
Give you 80% of your money. Like, what do you remember what that is?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what it was. I think that a lot of creators, especially peers that come to us and they're like, how are you guys doing this? I think that's one thing that we always look at is like, where's most of your income coming from? And then where's most of your time? I think it's super healthy for people to look at a week and say like, okay, I'm going to put down and write every single hour that I'm working on something. I'm going to track it. So if you're spending 10 hours editing a YouTube video, write down like what days, how much time you're spending on that. And then everything that you do, you need to write down a dollar next to it. So for instance, if you're sending an email, how much money is that email worth if you land that deal? If you're editing a YouTube video, how much money is that YouTube video worth in a month? If you're writing a blog, how much money is that worth? If you put a dollar sign next to every single task you do, it opens your eyes a lot. Because I think a lot of creators think like, oh, I'm going to go do this and I'm going to do this and this. Like if you don't see a dollar sign next to that, then why are you doing it if it's not going to help you? Maybe it'll help you grow a following or something. But even like when it comes down to trips, we're getting ready to go on this Norway trip and we can put a dollar sign next to, we know we're going to make this many YouTube videos and we know the average income we can make from that. We know we can do a guide, then we can sell a thatch guide. We know how much money we typically get from that. We're going to do blogs. We know exactly how much we do. We're going to shoot 3 brand gigs. So we can put like a specific dollar amount to like every single thing that we're doing. So I think that going back to the 80-20 principle, if you analyze what you're doing and where you're putting all your time into it, it opens your eyes because it's like you zoom out. So many people get caught up. And even when it comes to growth on social media, people are like, oh, I lost 8 followers today. Like, what am I doing wrong? I need to change my whole thing.
In the grand scheme of things, is it really that big of a deal?
Yeah, if you zoom out, we just finished the 30-day Reels challenge. Today, we're actually announcing the winner on Instagram. And like if you zoom out and look at a whole 30 days compared to just looking at one day, or even zooming out looking at 6 months and where's all the income coming from, I think it changes your perspective a lot.
Yeah, I heard this one thing. I don't remember where I got it from. I think I got it from our mentor, James Wedmore. And he had mentioned something like, if you look at your business and you're starting to grow one stream of income, right? Think of it as like a building analogy. Like you start building a bridge.
Like if you were trapped on an island is what he says. So imagine like you're on one island and then you have to get off the island and there's all these other islands around you. If you start building the bridge here and then you're like, oh, I'm going to stop building this bridge. I'm going to build a different bridge. Oh, now I have to build another bridge. There's my blog. Now I have to build another bridge, which is my YouTube, image licensing, and then YouTube. None of the bridges ever get you off the island. All you have is all 10 unfinished bridges, right? So if you look at your business like that, or look at your Instagram or whatever it is like that, if you're constantly just building new bridges, but you're never finishing it, like you're never going to
get to your dream place. Exactly. He calls it like you want to get to the dream island. Yeah. And like, all these different bridges are like, you're trying to get to your future, your dream life. And then if you never complete one, you're never going to get there. So the key to it is really building a complete bridge. So now you can get off and go back and forth and then starting the second bridge and so on and so forth. But that stuck with me. I remember that analogy and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
No, that's really great advice. But I think that, I don't know, you guys gave some more advice, so don't sell yourself short because it really did change the game for us. So thank you.
Good. Good. Well, thank you so much for being on our podcast, Jordan. Where can everyone that's listening go and find you?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. But yeah, I can be found across all social media platforms with the handle @thevocal. So very simple.
And you have some cool resources for people as well, right?
Yes. So I do focus a lot on points and miles. That used to be really a big thing for me, but that is how I was able to do so many flights last year for such a low cost. So I think, I did, 45 flights and I spent under $1,500. And I did that all with points and miles and some budget flights, but mostly points and miles. So I have a free points and miles beginner's guide. So if you're new to points and miles, you can check that out and learn a little bit about points and miles. And then I also have a free packing checklist with everything that I bring with me on my trips because I'm a minimalist packer. So if you're struggling to fit everything in a personal item or a carry-on, whatever it is, check out my
Low
friends.
key, we might go check that out after this because we're getting ready to pack for 10 days in Norway and then a week
5
in
days
Lake
in Lake
Tahoe
Tahoe.
back to back. We're not even going to come home. So definitely going to go check out your thing. We'll put that all down in the show notes, or if you guys are watching on YouTube, you can check it out down below. And if you guys are listening to this episode and you enjoyed what Jordan said, make sure to go send her a DM on @themobile_homie. Send her some love. Go give her a follow. Her content is amazing. And as always, the best way you can help support this podcast is share this with one other person that you think might learn something. Maybe they are interested in getting ready to go travel and they're like, oh, I'm too young to travel. Tell them Jordan's story. She's such an inspiration to a lot of younger travelers. And as always, don't forget to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you guys are watching on YouTube, woot woot, make sure to give us a like and subscribe. And with that, we'll see you next Friday with another episode of Unfiltered Adventures.
Bye.